I know this is going to sound insane to some people, but I actually live off of 25% of my income. And no, I'm not living in my mom's basement. Actually, we don't even have basements here in South Texas. And I'm not growing beans in some field somewhere. And the wild part, I'm not surviving. I'm thriving. And get this, most people spend 100% of what they earn and still feel broke. If that sounds familiar, then you're going to want to stick around. Because once I flipped the script on how to view money, everything changed. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how I did it, the weird things that I learned along the way, and how you can start living better with less stress and more freedom. So here's why I decided to do this. I used to also live paycheck to paycheck. I would spend just about everything because I didn't really have much wiggle room, or so I thought. Then, of course, I work in sales, so there's always that scarcity mentality that, hey, I need to do what I can with the resources that I have because I don't know what I'm going to make next month or next week or even tomorrow. So you get into that mode where you think you have limited resources, and that can really drag on your day to day. But then I had a shift in thinking. So, hey, if businesses run their operations on revenue and they can project forward based on market conditions and other unknown factors, and why can't I do that as well? I have a pretty good track record of, my sales career so far. I can look at what a typical performance looks like and make a forecast just like I normally would. Now, how I perform can vary, but I can at least see based on my track record that there are some averages I can go by, and that's what I can shoot for. And then that's what I can actually commit to. So when I did that, basically I created a forecast of what a typical month would look like and then what that would look like over a year. And then I looked at all of my living expenses, all of my needs, my mortgage, my foods, any other bills, things like that, all the things that it takes to run a financial household. And basically said, okay, what is the minimum that I can live off of based off of the forecast that I'm projecting? And can I meet those sales goals? And it was just enough to stretch me to a place that I've never been before and an income that I've never earned before, but enough for it to be realistic and achievable and something to work towards. So I said, basically, if I can earn this amount, then these expenses would be roughly 25% of that annual income. So the key is I got to make that annual income. Now, the hardest part, of course, is just taking that leap of faith. When you're in sales like myself, commission-based sales, you may have a small salary, you may have no salary. I had a very small salary, which kind of gave me a little bit of reassurance, but it's definitely not going to make up the majority of what I'm going to need to not only just live off of, but to thrive as well and hit those bigger financial goals that I was truly working towards, which at that time was paying off the house. And now going forward is using that additional money to invest aggressively, and build passive income streams. But really, it just came down to keeping the faith in yourself that you are going to meet those objectives. Now, you may not do it daily or weekly, or maybe have some stumbles along the way, but you have a target to shoot towards, and you can pick up where you left off and rebuild and reassess what worked, what didn't, and then go into that next week with a game plan of how you're going to make the most of your time. Now, what really helped me stick with this is just I have to see the numbers. I'm a spreadsheet guy. I have to build, spreadsheets to kind of just project, because that's how I visualize things. If I have a spreadsheet that shows, what this next year to 3 years looks like, if I were to achieve this income and put this certain percentage away, what would that really look like in my bank account and set me up for that next step? So using spreadsheets as a tool to help the visualization process was key for me. And of course, I keep a lot of other external tools in place as well, such as like vision boards, just going through my planner and reviewing my notes and writing down different ideas. All these little things are just checks in the boxes to reinforce what it is that you're doing, keep you motivated along the way. Having people who can also keep you accountable and just kind of venture thoughts out to and keep them up to date on your progress. I'm very fortunate that my spouse shares a lot of the same values as myself, and we're all focused on very similar things in life. So being able to share those ideas and thoughts of what's working, what are the things that I'm focused on and wanting to accomplish, and try some new ideas and bounce them off of them. That's really the key to this whole part of success. Of, you got to be creative. You got to first ask yourself, how can I do this? A lot of people get into that mode where we say, I can't do this, versus, okay, that's, something that's maybe very large and scary, and I'm not sure if I can achieve it, but if I can start breaking down the how, then I can start making it into bite-sized, manageable chunks, little milestones, little deadlines I can put in place, over the next couple of months. Because, even 12 months sounds like a really long time. It is a really long time, but if you can break that down into 12 weeks and some milestones along the way to shoot for, it can really help in the long run of achieving those really, really big goals. So how much do I save and why? So currently I am saving about 65% of my income. Before I was saving about 60% when I was focused on paying off the house. That was my MO at the time. I had an objective of paying off the house in under a year. I had about $175,000 of total debt. I was primarily just the mortgage. And that was the focus. That was the why of putting myself on a program where I'm only putting 25% of my income into my bank account that covers my ongoing living expenses. And then the rest goes towards the house, essentially. Really, the whole why behind that was financial freedom. I wanted to be free from debt. And I was at a point where I was focused on building a passive rental real estate portfolio. And I made a shift in the long-term plan to focus on having the roof over my head completely paid for. That way, if anything were to happen, I wasn't able to work, or something just came up in life, at least the roof over my head was paid for and I didn't have to worry, and I could sleep easier at night. That was the why. Now that the house is paid off, the MO is getting back onto that same program and putting the majority of my income towards assets that are going to provide passive income to me to for the lifestyle that I wish to have. And the first focus is really just financial security, making sure that my living needs and my household expenses are taken care of, and then building on the lifestyle wants from there with different investments over the course of several years. So really, how did this change my life? It was just a shift in thinking. It's about creating an abundance mindset. At first, just like everybody else, I was a little hesitant. I had some anxiety. Wow, can I really live off of that? That's a really small amount. There are definitely some weeks where I didn't get the sales that I was expecting. But you know what? I still stuck to the program, and I put 25% of whatever that income was towards my living expenses. And of course, having a cash reserve is key to this entire process. But really, it shifted my mindset of what is possible and what you really need to live off of. There's always going to be things that grab our attention and distract us, the noise in life, the things that we want, practicing delayed gratification. But it's really not about sacrificing the things that you love. It's really just prioritizing what it is that you're truly focused on and being committed to that. And when you're really committed to that, it's easy to say no to the things that are going to get in your way. That's really when people start to falter on their long-term plans, is that they just don't have a strong enough why, and they can allow themselves to just have like an easy out and get distracted. And that happens to all of us. We all have ebbs and flows in our lives. It happens to me all the time still. Really, my life just changed overall because now, okay, I've been on this program for quite some time now, as far as giving myself a restricted amount of money for my living expenses. That doesn't mean I live a restricted life. I give myself boundaries with my fun stuff too. I still give to charity, but a majority of my income goes towards my future investing. Is it always going to be that way? No. But for the time being, while I'm in build mode, absolutely. So going forward, we're just shifting gears and making sure that a majority of the income is going towards providing for the financial future that I envision. So here's how you can start. You can start similar to what I did. You can create a spreadsheet similar to the one that I created, where you got to get really tight with your numbers. You got to know your numbers. So starting with your household expenses, what are the essentials that it costs to run your household? List them all out. And then find out what percentage of your overall income does that take up. And then put yourself on a program. Think of it like when you're trying to lose weight for the first time, just switching to a smaller plate can really improve your results because now you're eating much less than what you typically would. The same thing applies with your finances. If you put just a smaller amount for what you need into a separate bank account that you're going to use for just that specific purpose, it gives you boundaries that you can now live within. And then from there, if you need to tighten up things with budgets for specific spending categories that you want to improve on, you can absolutely do that and go forward. Here's what most people get wrong about frugality. A lot of people think of frugal as a four-letter word. You got to put yourself on a barbaric program. You got to be a savage and say no to absolutely everything and live on the old rice and beans and rice type of diet. But it's really not the case. For me, being frugal stands for financially responsible, undeniably generous, abundant lifestyle. And that's the type of lifestyle that I live. So if you are frugal as well, that means you just have your priorities straight. It means you say no to the things that aren't really important to you, that you want to focus on. You know exactly where you stand. When you say you can't afford that, it just means that you have the money, but you just don't have the money for that. And that's okay. That's about staying committed and disciplined and true to your actual goals. So here's a challenge that I have for you. I want you to get started today by putting yourself on a similar program. It doesn't have to be 60% of your income. Start with 10%. If you can't do 10%, do 5%. If you can't do 5%, do 1%. Everybody can put 1% away. But here's the thing. I want you to gradually increase it. If you're starting with 1%, the next time you get paid, put 2% and work your way up. Eventually, you're going to start noticing that you don't even miss the money that is being put away. Could be a great program for building up your emergency fund, finding some additional income that you can throw towards your debt, building the habits of saving that can then translate into the habits of investing on a regular program. But start with something today. It doesn't matter what the amount is, just start and then progress. And fitness, you call it progressive overload, progressive training. You want to build up over time to where you can get it to a level that is really sustainable. So just to wrap things up, living on 25% really isn't about sacrifice. It's more about freedom. I don't miss the 60+% of the money that I put away because it's there, it's sitting, and it's ready because I'm building towards the next thing. That's what gets me excited. When is it going to be built up to be ready to deploy that capital towards the thing that's going to provide freedom for me in my life? What I really like is the peace of mind. And being in sales, having cash in the bank means confidence in front of the client. So thank you for listening to my message. If you're trying to take control of your money, hit subscribe. We're building smart habits, not just budgets. It's a lifestyle. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.